Hello and welcome to the Breaking Free podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Francis, and today I'm very grateful and very humbled to be joined by Bryce Cluett, who's also a self-sabotage coach as well, but he is also so much more than just a self-sabotage coach. He has a program called the Man on Fire program, which we'll discuss in a minute. He's a crypto expert. He's a father. He's a pretty cool guy. I love his posts on Instagram and Facebook. He always asks questions and gets people to discuss. It's just a really, really awesome person to have, and I'm looking forward to delving into his story, delving into the Man on Fire and crypto, and the sort of bloke. Well, we say bloke here in Australia. The sort of bloke Bryce was before he found Jason's Christoph self-sabotage work. So without any further ado, Bryce Cluett, take it away and let's delve into your story.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I mean, it's a pleasure to be here, Nathan. And, I love connecting with people when you're starting to sort of change your vibration, I call it, searching for new things, and you just magically connect with people. So I appreciate you having me here. It's been an honor to chat with you last week as well. And yeah, we can start right away, right into my story. I mean, I was your typical sort of Canadian guy, right? I played sports, loved hockey, played college level soccer. Over here we say soccer. I don't know if you say football in Australia, but
yeah.
And sort of just went with the flow, right? Just went with the flow. I knew I needed a job. I knew I needed income. I went out to the bars after my soccer games and had beer. One beer, two beers could turn into, later that evening, still with my soccer cleats and shin pads on and, still enjoying the evening, and then, go on home and then go back to work and do it all over again. So, my beginning journey was sort of just searching for something else, sort of what else is out there. Is this what my life is going to be? Is just, working during the week, working for the weekend, essentially. Like a lot of the programming says, they're working 9 to 5, or I call it an 18 to 65. You start working and look forward to retirement. So that was kind of where I come from. I mean, it's not too much to talk about. I got into playing music, playing bass guitar, playing in bands, playing in clubs. So that alcohol, the marijuana was in that cycle too as well. And you really just did what everybody else did. So looking at it now from where we come from, it's pretty obvious to see that that's what my life was, people pleasing. Confrontations were a no. There was no way I was going to be in a confrontation or stand up for what I believed in. It was always to smooth things over. Drugs and alcohol was pretty commonplace. And no purpose. I'll say no purpose, because I use that word a lot. And sometimes people don't know what that means, or I went through that a long time where I didn't, people always say, well, do what you love, right? If you're doing what you love, it's not really work.
Yeah.
But people don't know what that is, right? They don't know, because what they're doing is they're being distracted throughout life. So when you have those distractions in there, the distractions of trying to fit in, distractions of self-sedation, you get a little bit of uncomfortable feeling. Well, what do? You either eat, pleasure, right?
Yep.
Play some video games, right? So
yeah.
And we do that. We know that now. We do that subconsciously. We do it. We don't consciously think about it like, what can I eat to dull my pain of feeling alone? Or what can I, I'm not in a relationship and I really want to be in one. What can I drink to dull that pain? It's really just a conscious thing that you do, and you learn it from people around you, and you learn it from your childhood. And for me, it was pretty, like I said, a pretty normal thing to do in Canada. I believe it's a normal thing to do worldwide.
Yep.
we have different ways of doing it, but to go to the club, to drink, to smoke weed, to eat bad foods. And then we start to wonder, that's when I started to wonder, why am I doing all the things that are bringing harm to myself? Why is it that I never reach for, if I'm feeling uncomfortable, I don't start to build muscle?
Yep.
Or get down and do some push-ups. Why do I always reach for the things that are just going to take me to a different place and disconnect me from what's actually going on? So that's when I started searching for it. I started saying, psychology was a thing I was interested in. Why do people do what they do? That
Mm.
was my question I asked to myself. And I came across Jason.
Yep.
I started seeing his post, and it hit me like a train. It was like, yeah, yeah. Maybe at the time I was like, it's a little bit further than I would take it at first.
Yeah.
But I liked reading it, right? Because it
Yeah.
made sense.
Yeah.
It was just delivered, like I said, delivered like a freight train in that there's no beating around the bush, as we say. It's right in your face. So I started looking into his stuff, and then realized, I could get certified in his teachings. And that just took me down the road of really focusing on men, really focusing on, people in general. I love talking about this stuff. Probably, I know you do, because your podcast is great, and you like to focus on, chatting with people and talking about self-sabotage stuff. But I did really find that the men right now were just lacking. They were just lacking in leadership. And they were, as I dissect what people are doing. I see that a lot of them are doing what I did. They're not, still are, and they're not making a conscious decision, right? They're not sitting down and saying, what can I do this evening to better myself? I want more wealth, right? Everybody could use a little bit more wealth, a little bit more money. Maybe it creates a bit of freedom for you. So what can I do? What can I do to get there? So the idea behind, self-sabotage or subconscious programming is to surround yourself with the things that you want. Remove the negative stuff, and just interject the positive stuff. So I think what we're doing here, Nathan, is ahead of its time, right? We're starting to bring people into it and let them know and make them aware that the stuff that's been working against you, we can actually flip the switch, and we can actually like make things happen for yourself just by little steps at a time. It's not a big thing. It's not intricate. It just requires you to first be aware, and then second, start to implement those things. So that's kind of where I started, where, I got to, and now where I'm at with the Man on Fire program.
Yeah. Oh, that Man on Fire program is awesome. And just everything that you just said is just like literally how it's just always been, and our work is so powerful. So yeah, if you want to just delve into the Man on Fire program, men just need to get their power back, really. That's pretty much as simple as it can be. And yeah, just give us some delve into that for us. Yeah, the Man on Fire.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Man on Fire, is just a term that really, when you hear it, right, it makes you think of a man that's unstoppable, has purpose. I talk about purpose a lot. And, in its simplest form, it's really just about making people aware of how the subconscious works, and then using that to your advantage, and removing the negative influences and replacing them with positive. So it could be different for each people. I have what I call 5 pillars that I work on, and they're physical, right? I call it the temple, which is your body. And I go on through right to bank, which is the wealth part of it. And it all ties into the subconscious. I mean, the subconscious is influenced by everything from, movies that we watch, things we tell ourselves, things we read, repetition. So when I talk about it now, it seems so simple. It seems so simple just to have an all-in-one program where people can, learn about the subconscious, learn some action steps. I am big on habits as well, because that's really what it takes, right? It doesn't matter if someone says, I want to be wealthy, or I want to lose weight, I want to be like stronger. Those are just sort of pipe dreams, right? The process is what's going to get you there. What are you going to do, right? So one example I use sometimes is, if someone says, oh, I got this goal of getting in shape, I want to lose some weight and gain some muscle. Well, I say to them, listen, your goal is to get your workout shoes on. That's your goal. If you can do that, most likely you're going to follow the next steps, which is, either pick up the dumbbells at home, or if somebody goes to a gym, it's your goal is to get in the car and get to the gym,
Yep, literally.
So sometimes that helps people. It seems basic, but that's kind of what my program sort of entails is just that knowledge, right? That knowledge about how your subconscious works, and then action steps that I use, some audiobooks that I use that really helped me connect with what's important. And it's really about just removing those distractions as much as you can, and then all of a sudden stuff starts to focus. It comes into focus.
Interesting. Yeah, I love it how you just said getting to the gym. Like, a lot of people buy that gym membership and only go like twice, or sometimes not at all. It's like you're subconsciously like not going, and people aren't aware of the reasons why they're not. Yeah, it's very powerful stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, I think some of the stuff for me was always the language I was using. I was always saying, like, I had access to going down to my basement here and working out, and I'd always say I should do that.
Yeah,
I should do. It was just should. It was just, when I look back now, I can't believe I used to say it so much. I should work out, or I could work out. Yeah, I should do that. And
but you never do.
I never did. I never did. And it was very sporadic, right? It was every now and then, but it was never enough to make any impact. And now there's a plan, right? So that's another thing that I do talk about a lot in my program, is just having a plan. Just a simple plan is just, they say that we retain about 10% of what we hear or even sometimes read, but if we write it down, we retain about 70% of it. So just writing down a simple plan the day before, okay, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to drink some water, I'm going to go do my workout, and all of a sudden now you have a plan, right? Yep. So you're going to be statistically, you're going to be a lot more probable to do the workout if you have it written down and it's in the plan.
Yep. You're setting the intention, which is so 100%. Powerful too. Yep.
Yeah.
You're intending to go, and you will go, and you will stick to it. It's pretty much what like we talk about too. It's people say, I am trying. Well, you're not really going to get there. It's like, I'm just going to go and do it. Yeah.
Love that. Like, I'm trying. Same thing with the language, right? It's so simple, and it's an easy thing for us to do because we can start it right now. So literally. Somebody who's watching this and then they start to think about words that they use, like that's one of the things we do in our, you do it as well in your intake form. The language right away. You can read the language.
Yeah.
And same thing when you're talking to somebody, you could hear them. They say, I'm trying to do this, and you can almost stop them immediately in their tracks and say, listen, get rid of that word trying. That's the old you. That's not you now.
Yeah.
Right. The new you says you're going to do it. You're doing it, right? I'm working out. I'm getting in shape.
Yeah.
Not I'm trying to go to the gym 2 days a week.
So
I'm
going to the gym 2 days a week. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to the gym 2 days a week. I work out now. That's a part of who I am. And it just, once you understand the subconscious, they understand how that's like it's a snowball effect, right?
Yeah.
It becomes a part of who you are. And then you just, motivation is sort of something that's kind of people like, oh, I just can't get motivated. Well, it's not a thing that you can find and then put in your pocket and go use it. It literally comes from repetition, and then it becomes a part of you, and then it just is who you are, right?
Yeah, and we see it all the time too. Like, people will come home from their 9 to 5 job. It's like you could do a quick workout either before or after, but they'll go home and they'll put on Netflix, or they'll have a couple of wines or a couple of glasses of coffee or something. It's like you can use that time better to become better.
Yeah. Yeah. And for the same reason that you come home and then you have those habits, it's just that you're not consciously thinking about the habits you're doing. So
correct. Yep.
If you're going to sit down and write a list out of everything you do in just a run of 24 hours, put an X next to ones that are no good and a check mark next to the ones that actually propel you. Having in mind what your goal is. Okay, I want to be healthier. Yeah. So you start checking, you start seeing, you're like, oh crap, I got a lot of X's here. I got a lot of X's. Then you start to understand, why are you doing those things? You're doing them because they're learned behavior that you learned, a long time ago, and you just brought it into adulthood, and you're still doing them now. Right.
Yep, so spot on. And this stuff should be taught in schools too.
I mean, can you imagine teaching kids this sort of stuff at a young age?
I actually can, yeah, because that's sort of my goal. Oh, it's not sort of,
Nice.
it is my goal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd love to just put this program into schools. So that is
Awesome.
exactly why I'm here. Yeah.
Yeah, that is pretty powerful as well.
Mm.
It's one thing, to look at. I always tell people, when I'm talking to them for the first time, it started now. Like
Yeah.
you've started now. The fact that you're talking to me now, it's started. But it's powerful to think of getting kids involved for sure, and I applaud you for that. That's a big, that could change the planet in an instant, right?
Yeah, literally. I got goosebumps you saying that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, that's exactly what is needed, is to get in at that level. And, when we look at public schools, unfortunately, they're doing the opposite with the public schools, and ringing the bell, and, you
Yeah.
know, that sort of conditioning, right? It's the same thing as the Skinner box experiment with the rat. You give it it clicks the thing, you give it food, it clicks it again, it gets food, it starts to remember that that's what it should be doing. So
Mm.
kids, same thing, sit down, be quiet,
Yep.
listen to the bell. It's conditioning them to follow orders, whereas we need to be conditioning kids to follow their intuition, to have a purpose, to speak up when something isn't right. Right? We've
Yes.
conditioned people in our society now, especially men, and that's one of the things I get powerful on, is we have men sometimes that are more they're more prone to taking a video of something happening that shouldn't be happening, rather than stepping in and saying, this isn't right, stop doing that.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so it's one of those things where I'm not a big guy, but if I got in a situation, I know exactly how I would act. If I got in a situation where somebody was being wronged, I would step in there, and I want other guys to know that that's the right thing to do. And just because socially it doesn't seem right to get into a confrontation, it's not right to stand back and take a video of it and put it on social media.
Spot on.
Right.
Yeah. And a lot of men sort of shy away from that too, don't they? The
Yes.
confrontation. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. They want to people please. Right.
They do. Yep.
Yeah.
It's usually with the
So
to fit in with the herd. So yeah, and just back on what you said with kids not, like, kids don't even, or children don't even know that they even have an intuition. That's how programmed they are in that school
mhm.
system. Yeah, so they're not even aware of it.
Yeah, you're told, that, boys like blue and girls like pink, and
Mm.
and you're told those things, and they're such subtle things that happen. But when you look at it from our point of view, or from the outside, my son's homeschooled, so he knows a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about now.
Yeah,
He knows the
that's
stuff
awesome.
that we're talking about, right? And he knows to step in if something was wrong, or if a friend was being wronged. Not to stand back and just be like, oh, that happened today. He would step in, right? So that's so powerful. I keep
Yeah,
running that through my head of you being able to get that into a school program, or just into younger kids' minds, that's how that works with the subconscious.
yeah. No, that's sort of like my big dream. Like baby steps to
Mhm.
get there, as they say. But yeah, that's definitely my big dream. Sort of like a nature school sort of program as well.
Yeah, it's
Get
so
children
good.
back
And
out in
like,
nature.
yeah, out in nature, and then those little questions, we ask as a society, that are like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And like,
Hmm.
kind of silly stuff, right? They're formed questions that we all learn, and we just keep asking them every generation. And I don't, I just find those so silly. Or like the thing where you see a little girl, some people see a little girl who's like 10 or 11 years old, and do you have a boyfriend?
Yeah.
Or a little boy, do you have a girlfriend? And that sort of stuff is like such a cop out when it comes to questions. Ask them something interesting, right?
Hmm.
What do you love to do? you know what do you think about this? Or like, get them to form an opinion. So I think that's, I could sit and talk with you all day about that,
Yeah.
because I do
We
find it
could.
really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, we could. No, we could. Just gonna switch gears. Wealth self-sabotage is another big one, and I was just looking at your stuff to do with the crypto and the wealth advice that you give people. Were you someone that was sort of struggling to make ends meet? You're in that nine to five system, and you weren't really getting it anywhere in terms of wealth. And how did you get yourself, or I guess, out of that? Probably through Jason's work, but how did you find that wealth stuff come into your life as well?
Yeah, it's a great question. And
Yeah.
it stems back to the whole subconscious thing where, yeah, I was working a job. I worked, increasing hours, got paid pretty well, but never really had an extravagant sort of life at all,
Mm.
was, you get a couple of weeks off a year to go on vacation. And then while you're on vacation, you're just constantly thinking about coming back to work. So,
Yep.
um, and that's a reality, right? Just sit around and
Mm.
just think about what the average person does, and
Mm.
then they get, they'll buy a boat, or they'll get those little toys to have that they can use a few times a year, and the keeping up with the Joneses sort of idea.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what sparked my interest, was there's got to be a way to create more, either more wealth or just more freedom, where I'm not giving away my time to get paid, right?
Mm.
So I did start to come into, I learned about the monetary system was the first thing I did.
Yep.
As I always promote that, and I'm sure you do as well, is just educate yourself.
Yeah.
Anything that I'm telling people to do is, it's for you to find out the answers to. I'm not going to tell people. I don't want to come off as someone who's, telling people what to think.
Mm.
But from my experience, yeah, learning about the system and how it operated was a complete eye opener for me. It was like, oh, so they steal money from the people at every turn,
Mm.
right?
Literally.
It is what
Mm.
it is, right?
Yep.
So knowledge is power, but applied knowledge is powerful, right? So yeah, then I started looking at alternate ways, and I started looking at crypto, and I started teaching myself about crypto. And then actually I did provide a service where I did help people get into crypto. I did that for just over a year and a half.
Yep.
Still do it,
Yep.
but I do push my Man on Fire program more. But I was helping people get the same idea. I'd have a little consultation with them,
Mm.
talk about subconscious, talk about why they feel a certain way about it. Those little sayings that we have that we've been told all our lives, right? Money doesn't grow on
Yeah.
trees, and like, it's the
Can't
same
find
thing.
the money.
Yeah, I find it fascinating, right?
Yeah.
It's how we come to a conclusion at this time in our life, and it's all just on stuff we've been told,
Mm.
and stuff that we've seen in movies, or that we've banked in our computer, in our mind. And so just sort of interrupting that whole process and being like, you know what, we all deserve wealth, we all deserve freedom, we deserve health, right? We deserve all that stuff.
Mm.
Where it's amazing to be on this planet. So getting into the wealth thing was something that was important, and I do teach that in my program as well, how to sort of shift your mindset around it, look at different avenues, and it still comes back to the removing the distractions, and then
Yeah.
stuff becomes clear, right? So if you were to write down one day, okay, I want wealth, write it down. What am I doing right now to work towards that?
Mm.
Okay, I'm looking down through nothing, right? Maybe it's nothing. You're not doing anything, but you want it. So then you start to formulate your plan, right? You start to say, well, can I look up some books? Can I do some audio stuff? What's my end goal? Like, just purpose around what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Instead of the I should do this, or one day, this thing where if I retire, I'm going to be in the golden years, and I'm going to have all this time. And like, why do you need to wait until you're 65 years old?
Yeah. Exactly.
Do it now, right? Like, do
Yeah.
it now.
Yeah. Spot on.
So yeah, I think it's important for everyone to understand that's something that you can have, whether it is starting your own business, or whether it's just looking at investments,
Mm.
looking at some assets that may be something to get into now. And we know that there are a few assets that you could be into now, whether it's, crypto, gold, or silver.
Mm.
So yeah.
Yeah. Love that. Yeah. I one of the first things I did was when I got through Jason's program was go and buy some gold and silver just to have,
Mhm.
because one day this system will fall over. So it's good to have some sort of asset behind you, I guess. So yeah, what you were saying then just resonated with me so much. It's like, yeah, I got some stuff to think about too.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Like I said, when you arm yourself with the knowledge of that all fiat currencies, they go to zero at some point, and
Mm.
that's just history, and that's just a reality. They all do, right?
Yeah.
We've seen it in other countries where inflation went up thousands and thousands of percent. There's a couple countries there that I can think of, that I think Zimbabwe was one, where you literally had, wheelbarrows of money to go down to the store to buy bread. because their money was worthless, right? And it happened in Germany as well during the war. I've got a picture that I posted one time on social media where it's a German lady putting a wheelbarrow full of money down at her furnace, and she's literally throwing the money in the furnace to keep the furnace going because the money was worth nothing.
Wow.
And they needed something to light on fire.
Bet that gave you a ban.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, exactly.
It's awesome. Yeah, that's just great. And it's just like anything, isn't it? You just take baby steps, maybe invest in something, and then, get that little win, and then I will invest in something else and just build that portfolio, I guess.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, when it comes back to the money and wealth thing, the first thing is when you understand that when your money is in the bank, inflation is eating away at it. So,
yes.
If you were to have, $2,000 or $3,000 in a savings account, if you're planning on leaving that in there for 5 years, in 5 years' time, it won't be worth $2,000 or $3,000. It could be worth $1,000 to $2,000. So when people understand that, it's that fear again, right? Where they're like, oh, I'm not familiar with buying silver. Why would I do that? Well, if you look at history and you see that if you spent your $2,000 to $3,000 on silver, in 5 to 6 years' time, it's going to be worth at least $2,000 to $3,000. It'll hold that wealth for you. And even take it a step further in this times that we're in right now, most likely that money is going to double. Yeah. Great. So it's just one of those things. It's just going to be a place to store your wealth. It's not a risky thing. It's just going to store it. Everybody's used gold and silver over the course of time. And if 20 years ago, if you had bought it, you'd still have that wealth and still be secure in those assets, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And they always tell you, have a savings account and all this sort of stuff. And they just get people, I guess, away from things that have worked in the past. It's with everything too, isn't it? It's not just with money. So
yeah.
I
mean, especially with the money in the bank, like, when you learn about it, you'll learn that when you go to the bank to get a loan, you're actually just extending the bank's credit. And so they use that money to make 30-40% a month in their own bank, and then with your investment, maybe they pay you 0.5% for the month, and they're making 30%. So it's just one of those things where, if you start to learn about it, you start to get fired up, and you start to say, you know what, I can do this myself. I have the power. I'm capable. And that's when stuff starts to happen that, we say, if you keep doing the same thing, you're not going to get a different result. So
spot on.
Do something different, shake it up.
And that, what you said before, shake it up, and that fire, that's probably why you've got the man on fire, getting men. It's okay to be angry, and it's okay to be frustrated, and it's okay to feel those things, men, because the attack on males is real. So yeah, I love that when you said that.
Thank you. Yeah, it 100% is real. And I always say, you'll hear me say, like, there's two ways I explain it. One is the soft way, and one is the more sort of the real way. So the introductory way, I guess you could call it too, is, when you just start to add up the things that's being done, in the food, in the water, in the programming on TV, you start to add it up, and you start to really think about it. You start to think, geez, that's weird that's doing that. That's weird that they put that in there. Doesn't that do this? And you start to sort of, that's how your conscious will come on board too. And you'll start to be like, oh, that's I don't think they're doing that. They could do better. They could do better.
Yeah, just plant those seeds.
Yeah, plant those seeds, and then, take it a step further and really, get into some of those, documentaries and stuff that I do include in my program as well, and that we've probably seen from Jason, that really shows a real attack. There's no way around it, right? It's a blatant attack. One of the things I told somebody recently was, even just with miscarriages, they say that there's around 85% of miscarriages that happen are male babies.
Wow.
So that's something that, it is one of those stats that's out there. And
didn't know
yeah, you wonder why. You say, why would that be? But we know, if you want to take over, or if you want to be in charge of any sort of, group of people, or planet or city, you got to get to the males, right? You got to control those males. And we see it in breaking down the nuclear family, and so many sitcoms with just single mothers and
Yeah.
movies that start off right away. Like if I'm watching some, that's all I look for now is the subconscious programming, right? And
Yeah. Same.
it's kind of a fun thing, but
Yeah.
it's one of those things where I do encourage people to do that now when you're watching a movie. Like some people will say, well, I should never watch a movie. Well, you know, technically the guys that do the behavior modification and stuff, a lot of them don't watch movies.
No.
A lot of them don't watch TV because they know the power of that, right? So, but if you do watch it, just try to interrupt the process and see the things for what they are. I know something that was really cool that Jason had mentioned ages ago was just the beginning of the movies. So how the movies
Yeah.
start, right?
Coffee.
You see, yeah, coffee for sure. In the
Yeah.
scenes,
Yeah.
within the first 15 minutes, you'll see a coffee pot or you'll see a coffee mug, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then you start to wonder why is that. But even before that, when just the opening starts, we see that circle, we see a flash of light, and it's puts you in that trance state, right? So
It has.
it's
Yeah.
it's very similar to like the pendulum watch that they used to use to swing. It was a circle.
Mm.
It was a shiny object, and unfortunately, they know what controls our subconscious. And so, when you're watching those beginning of the movies and you see the Century 21 or the Paramount, just take note. You'll see like a flash of light. You'll see a circle or a semicircle, and you may see a loud music, some sort of like little tone of music. Those three things together can put you into a trance state, and that's when your subconscious opens up like a flower and just takes in everything that it's seeing.
And we can do it for better with a bit of Marissa Peer or some recordings or some affirmations. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
we can do that for you. That's better for you than sitting there watching a 2.5 hour movie when you're just in a trance state. Yeah.
Exactly.
I
Perfect.
didn't, I
Perfect
didn't, I
example.
actually didn't know that about Paramount and that at the start of the movie. So I've learned something today.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'll notice it now all the time.
I will now. Yeah. I actually stopped watching movies when I got into Jason's work, but yeah, that's a nice little piece of information. I like that. Yeah. I
Yep.
was going to ask you about did you find that when you were starting out with the health and the wealth, did you find yourself going back a few steps? Did you find yourself I wouldn't say struggling, but like did you find you might have made some big changes? Well, I definitely did. Made too big of changes, so I had to come back a bit. Like, did you find yourself how did you go about it in terms of your health and wealth? Did you find making big changes? You had to go back, or how did you find all that sort of process?
Yeah, it's a great question again.
Hmm.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we always talk about it, right? It's not about perfection; it's about progress.
Process, yeah.
And yeah, I definitely when I started eating healthy, it's you're going to get those times when you want something, you're really hungry, and you eat something that you know is not the best for you.
Hmm.
And then you just kind of connect with how it makes you feel. And then there's also ways that you can have a lesser evil, a lesser thing that you normally would have. And yeah, that's the thing about it. Once you start down that road of understanding that you're a powerful, sovereign human being, and that what you put in your body as far as health goes or exercising is so powerful, right?
Hmm.
That you'll just start to sort of whittle away those bad decisions. And that's kind of what I did was little by little, fast food was something that everybody sort of grabs and eats. My simple way of starting with that was, okay, well, I'm just going to pick one and I'm going to stop all the other ones. And
Yep.
that's what I did for the first little bit was I just had one place that I would go, and it made it a little harder because if it wasn't right next to me, then you had to go travel to get there, whatever. Well,
Yep.
unfortunately now there's one on every corner. So,
Yeah.
but that's kind of an example that I give when it
Yeah.
comes to fast food. And then, yeah, eventually that just went away. Right.
Yep.
Another example was, eating fast food, because I know a lot of people do at a convenience, was to not get the drink. Right.
Yeah.
The drink is just liquid sugar, is useless. Like
I
there's
used
no
to do
point of
that
it.
too.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
so, and then also understanding that when you eat, you should be chewing your food and not washing it down with the liquid.
Yes.
So
Yep.
those two combinations helped me sort of, stop getting the liquid sugar, not drinking the pop anymore. And then slowly getting away from just not wanting to go to those places. Now I look at them as a vile, establishment that passes itself off as food.
Yeah.
That would be one example of how, like you just progress, right? And sometimes you go back a bit and sometimes, but the main thing is you're always kind of going forward.
You are, yeah.
Yeah.
And don't beat up on yourself if you do find yourself going back. There's always a reason for it or a lesson in it, as you say. So yeah.
Yeah. There's always a lesson. And even as simple as, people, I know women get this a lot where they'll feel guilty about eating a certain thing and just get rid of the guilt, right? Just think about it. I'm just eating, right?
Yep.
I'm eating, I'm nourishing my body. Even if you change your mindset around some of the not that healthy food, it can have a different effect, right? So little things like being stressed when you're eating, your system shuts down and then you don't digest the food as well. You don't get the nutrients as much. So just take a big deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth, sit down and eat that meal. Yeah. So little things, right? And that's the thing that I love about it is that there's always something for me to learn and learn from people like yourself. And it's always going to be an experience to learn that stuff.
It is. And I've learned so much from you, and this chat's been awesome. Like I've got a couple more questions and we can wrap it up with a dad joke or a affirmation, whichever one you prefer. Just going to ask you, what was your biggest form of self-sabotage that you found maybe a little bit hard, or not hard, but like hard to let go of during your journey?
The three biggest ones for me were probably, as far as like a physical thing was alcohol. Just because it was so social. The marijuana was a big thing as well, because it was, it got to a point here in Canada and then they legalized it, and made it sort of not that faux pas sort of taboo thing to do anymore. So you could just go into a shop and get it. And so those two big things, those were big for me to sort of stop doing or know that I was going to be somebody who was going to stop doing it. And same thing. I stopped bringing it into the home, sort of limited my experience with, playing music and playing in bands and in bars and stuff. I looked at what was important to me. That wasn't important to me as much as it was to, build a business, to see what I could become was more important to me than to stick with an older habit, right? And eliminating some stuff from arm's reach is a good example of another habit, right? Just don't bring it in the home. But I mean, alcohol and drugs they're a big thing in our society, and they're a big thing in the circles that you're around. And so just trying to limit that as much as you can, and then also taking a next step of just being that man that's in charge, that leader, right? I can go to a bar if I want to and hang out with guys, and I could easily go and play on stage and not be high too, right? But that sort of thing, and having that power to take forward and to almost show people that you can do it. Other people will start to be like, geez, that's weird, you're not drinking, eh? So
I heard your interview with Tanner last night. You said you back then, it was only a few months ago, you said that's a challenge for you now. It's like, if someone asks me why I don't drink, you're like, that's a challenge. It's like, I'm going to answer that question.
Yeah, exactly, right?
It's so powerful when you said that.
And like, don't be afraid to be that person that's I would say interesting, not weird, right? People use those terms like weird and different. It's interesting now. That's not the norm, to be somebody who can go out and not drink, or to go out and not partake in toxifying your body, or doing something because everybody else is doing it, right? So
that was something I struggled with over the last few months as well. It's like I just didn't go to the bar or didn't go and hang out with some new friends that I've made at a new sporting club. It's like I guess I had that fear of being different, but it's like I don't need that fear. It's like I can inspire these people to make change just by being me.
Yep. And if that's what somebody needs to do at first, is to, limit their interaction in a certain place.
Yeah, that's what
totally
I did.
acceptable, right? Yeah. Like
on.
To say, you know what, I'm not going to go.
Yep.
because I'm just not feeling good about it, and maybe I will end up drinking or whatever. And that's what's needed, right? That's actually taking charge, right? And being like, no, I'm not going. Maybe another time or whatever. But then you'll get to a point, yeah, where you'll be the one who's there, and maybe you'll influence them in the other way, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was literally our chat last week that sort of like fire in the belly, I guess, as you would say. It's like, yeah, okay, I'm ready to be that interesting person now. Yeah, so it's awesome that you said that. Love that.
Yeah, that's good, man. I appreciate it.
I often ask my guests for a dad joke or an affirmation to sort of like well, actually, no, just before I ask that question, I've got one more. If all that resonated with someone and people are stuck and people aren't really getting anywhere in life, they have no purpose, as you said probably 20 minutes ago, what would be your message for those people that are watching this right now and at this point and they go, like what you did before with the ticks and the crosses, they have more crosses than ticks currently. What would be your advice for those people that are currently at the moment going, oh, I've got a lot of changes to make and I don't really know where to start?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question.
Yeah.
Probably the first thing I would say is you are perfectly, exactly normal and perfectly designed because you got to this point in your life. So you're still alive, you're here. So all those mechanisms that are in place to get you here were working fine. There's nothing wrong with you. Everything is that's the way it's supposed to work, right? You're supposed to, at some point when you're younger, especially, fit into to be able to get to a place where you're safe and you're taken care of, and you do the things that you have to do to get there. But now as adults, we don't need that safety anymore. We need to be clear on what our intentions are in life, and it's a powerful thing when you start down that road of making decisions based on what your purpose is or what your goals are, rather than, what will someone think of me if I don't do this, or what will someone say if I'm not drinking or if I'm not partaking. So it just know that there's help there for you. We're all here to help you, and that you're working as perfectly designed, and it's only going to get better once you start to take charge of your life.
Love that. That's awesome. Oh, you just leave that there, couldn't we? You got a dad joke for us, have you, or affirmation to leave us on, Bryce?
I don't know if I got any dad jokes. I mean, sometimes,
come on.
sometimes I'll make comments, if I'm driving somewhere and I see, we're driving and the traffic's flowing, and then I'll see the traffic backed up the other way. I'll say, so I'm glad we're not going that way.
I don't mind that joke. I'm sort of one, I'm back in schools at the moment, and a kid would say, I'm hungry. I go, hi, hungry. I'm Nathan. That's sort of my favorite.
That's a dry one for sure. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Bryce, for jumping on.
No worries.
I feel like a lot of people can resonate with you and your work, and I encourage anyone out there to reach out to Bryce, reach out to me, or reach out to anyone else in our Freedom from Self-Sabotage coaching program. I'll input the link to our website on there as well. There's plenty of coaches. I'm sort of just ticking them off, getting them all on as just to really pump this information out there. So thank you so much, Bryce.
You're welcome.
You're an absolute legend, mate. So, just reach out for help, I guess, is the way I'll leave it to. And we'll end it there. So thank you, Bryce, and we'll catch you next time.
Okay. Take it easy.
See ya.